Hello, fifth graders! This is your Wednesday, April the 22nd, ELA and Social Studies lesson video. Make sure that if you haven't already completed your warm-up for Wednesday that you stop and complete your warm-up. It should take between 5 and 10 minutes. Then I want to remind you, I know our video was cut off a little yesterday because we can only have 15 minutes and I only needed a few more. So I'm going to go ahead and go back over your wanted poster. But that needs to be done today. That's your writing activity. And then our lesson video today is going to focus on pre-reading strategies, vocabulary, close reading, and then I'll go ahead and go over your comprehension questions. It'll probably take us 2 videos. But the expectation is that you're going to finish your comprehension and vocabulary tomorrow, and that you're also going to work on your graphic organizer tomorrow. All right, so for your writing assignment for today, yesterday you should have completed the 3 requirements for anyone to be a president, and then the 4 qualities in detailed sentences that you thought would be the most important to be a president. So your writing today is to draw a picture of either the real person that in real life could fit those requirements, or to draw a picture of the person you imagine would be the president, and then to turn your 7 ideas from the previous page into an edited final copy paragraph. So you might need to write it on scratch paper first, or you're welcome to type it as well. And if you type it, you can just paste it right here, or tape it, or attach it to your packet. All right, so today we're going to focus on voting in America. And our skill that we're working on today, if you go back to your checklist, our skill that we're working on is I can quote accurately from the text and make inferences. And that's when you're deciding what an answer would be that isn't right there in the text. It's an answer that you're using your detective skills for. So the first thing we're going to do is pre-read. We always start by looking at our text features and thinking about the text. We do this every time we look at anything. So look at your text. What text features do you notice? Well, we have this. What do we call this up here? Voting in America. Title. And then we have this, letter to the editor. So what is this called? A subtitle. And it's a letter. So we know that the type of text we're going to be looking at is in a letter format. We don't know who's writing the letter, and we don't know who it's from yet. Then we have this over here. It has a little area where a person is filling something out on paper, and it says vote. And it has an American flag. What do we call this text feature? An illustration. Now, it's not a photograph, so probably we're not going to be looking at something that is going to be a nonfiction text. It's a letter, so it's someone's ideas they're writing. But we'll have to look further. We're not sure yet. Usually a picture tells us it's going to be fiction, illustration versus a photograph. But we'll have to look and see. All right, what do we consider this? What do we call this down here? Glossary. Cornerstone, a very important part of something. Register, to sign up, cast a ballot, or vote. All right, so our reading today is 1.5. Oh, we got to look at our other page. There's a couple over here too. We have the closing of our letter and the signature. And it's written by a person called Vanessa Ortiz. And then we have some more vocabulary words. Barrier, something that gets in the way, and motivated, inspired, to give a reason for doing something. All right. Now, this isn't in a narrative format. It's not a story, so we're not going to have a beginning, middle, and end. we're not going to have settings and characters to focus on. We're going to need to focus on our nonfiction concepts for our summary. So what do we always focus on for nonfiction? Who, what, when, where, why, and how. So those are the key things that we're going to focus on. So first off, I want you to go ahead and pause your video, and you're going to read it one time all the way through independently. Go ahead and stop your video and do that now. All right, so if you're continuing on, that means you've already read it once and you might have done some highlighting on your own. We're going to close read it together. And remember, when we close read, I'm going to pause, and whenever I pause, you're going to read the next word out loud. Why don't more Americans? The right to vote is the cornerstone of any. In order for a nation to be by the people, for the people must, in their voting lets people express their and help determine their. They choose people to represent them in. They decide how tax money will be. The United States has been amended 3 times to state who can, to give a voting voice to African Americans, and to lower the voting age to 18. Yet many don't. All that adult citizens need to do is to vote before election. On average, however, only 50% of voters actually cast a ballot in U.S. national elections. Around the world, the average turnout is around 80%. The United States ranks near the bottom for voter. All right, we're going to go ahead and pause here. There's some really great words, and I want us to break these up into parts because we know that that's a really good strategy to help us read multisyllabic words. So I'm going to look at this first one right here, the C word. Cornerstone. Then we have this word that came up quite a bit. Democracy. Democracy. And then this word came up quite a bit too. Participate. And then this one right here, of course, we're pretty good with this word, I know already, but we're going to go ahead and mark it. Government. And I think those were all. Oh, this is another really good one down here, the C word. Constitution. I want you to stop and go back and reread each of these words. Say them twice to yourself or out loud. All right, we're going to mark just a few key ideas from this paragraph. So why did it say that it was really important for people to vote? Why was it important? Well, there are 3 different ideas. Voting lets people express their opinions and determine their futures. It helps choose who will represent them and how their tax money will be spent. Now, there was a little section in here that talked about the Constitution or our laws being amended. Amended is a word that means when they are changed. And our laws about voting were changed several times. What were some of the ways that our laws about voting have changed? Well, one amendment allowed African Americans to vote, another allowed women to vote, and one changed the voting age to 18, so that if you could serve in the armed forces, you could also vote. I think there's one more key piece in this. About how many people in the United States vote each year? %50. About how many of them vote in most countries? About 80%. So we have about 30% 30% less participation, which is surprising. All right, we're going to keep reading with our closed reading. There's a few words in here I do want us to look out before. So we have registered and unregistered. And then we also have occasionally, and political. All right, here we go. Why doesn't every eligible register to, while 78% of potential voters go to the at least 22% are not even registered. In general, people who are not registered to vote are less, make less, and do not belong to a political. In addition, they often come from families that do not vote. Most of the voters in the United States are between 18 and 30 years old. All right, so there's some key ideas there. What is one of the main reasons that people don't vote? Well, they're usually not registered. So you have to prove that you live here and prove where you live before you can cast a ballot. What are some of the things that describe, or what are some of the things they find about people who don't vote? He gave us a few key details. Well, they're usually less educated, usually make less, and they often do not belong to a political party. What is the group of people that are least likely to vote? All right, 18 to 30 years. All right, we're going to keep reading on the back. We're probably going to need to pause the video at some point so we can start a new one. So kind of expect that in a moment we're going to probably stop abruptly and then we'll pick it back up. And right now we've been focusing on comprehension of just the text. But these are answers to questions that are right there. What are we highlighting? In a minute I'm going to ask you some questions about some things that aren't there, some things you're going to have to infer or use your detective skills. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pre-read. We're going to shift through and see if there's any words we might need to look at beforehand. Registration. And then we have this really great word again, democracies. And responsibility. Say those words for me a couple of times. Okay, I'm going to stop our video here and pick it right back up in part B.